There's an element of, I guess, respect for other people's spaces. What do you think about that whole thing? I mean, there's a court case. Just to say, the court case has been pushed back another couple of months, probably till April sometime. But nevertheless, it is going to come up. What do you think, Corey?
Well, I believe that our freedoms of speech and freedom of religion has been undermined for quite a while, and we see that through several other cases, or many cases, that are in front of the Human Rights Commissions, especially in Alberta, with Pastor Stephen Boisson and Ezra Leband, etc. So, actually, of the last 50 cases that have come before the Human Rights Commission that had reference to freedom of religion, all 50 cases have been lost. So, for that reason alone, you can see that our freedom of speech, and especially freedom of religion and worship, has been undermined. And we believe that we are living in a country that has a Christian heritage, a Christian nation under God, and we should be able to go to the streets and to give a proclamation of the message that we know for ourselves has value. And it doesn't mean we are proselytizing, but it means that we share what we believe has a positive impact on other people's lives. And the public domain, the streets and the parks, we should be able to go there and speak or give tracts or, just mingle with the people. I understand this case in Calgary, that there was a complaint about the noise. Well, if you're driven on the streets and you hear the sound of the cars beside you, I think they're a lot more noisy than what you would have in this case.
What do you make of all that, Sharon?
Well, I think this is such an interesting case. Obviously, the Charter of Rights protects guarantees our right of freedom of speech. And freedom of speech is a great thing for society because it promotes the free flow of ideas and our pursuit of truth. What better way to try to pursue truth than to share our ideas of religion? But we have to be cognizant of the fact that there are limitations to our expression of freedom of speech. And a lot of these are contained within the criminal code. For example, sections 318 and 319 talk about the fact that if your speech is going to provoke hatred towards a sector of society, that has crossed a line. There are other limitations with freedom of speech as well that law-abiding citizens have to consider, and one of them, unfortunately, is noise pollution. So this can become a rather subjective evaluation of how much noise is too much noise.
Well, I think the issue, it goes quite a bit broader than that. You touched on this a little bit, Corey, and that is the restrictions that have been placed on our ability or people's ability to say certain things, and things that are unpopular or unfashionable tend to get pushed into that creating hatred envelope fairly quickly. I think of the debate that raged several months ago about same-sex marriage as an example. There seemed to be a bit of a chill on certainly some members of some churches in giving full expression to the reasons for their opposition to this, and yet they were really restricted in what you could say. And you referenced a couple of these.
Disagree with something that is now called hatred or phobia. And so this has changed over the last couple of years, especially, and through those especially cases that have been before human rights commissions. And so we have been limited in what we can say. And when we talk about the gospel of Jesus Christ, what the street church, I'm sure, is talking about in the streets of Calgary, this is a message of love. There is nothing hateful about it. And so when we talk about the love of Jesus Christ for all mankind, you would say that message should be welcomed. And so, again, if this complaint is that it is inciting hatred or it is, a negative towards the people around them, that is very, very sad in our civilized country of Canada.
Sharon, if we do sweep in, or if the authorities do sweep in some of these unpopular ideas or ideas in opposition to something and call it hatred, doesn't that just diminish the whole exercise to actually prevent the real hatred?
Well, absolutely it does, because we have to realize that allowing others to have freedom of speech also protects our own right to have freedom of speech as well. So freedom of speech is a great thing because it breeds tolerance. If we respect that right, And as soon as we say, no, you're not allowed to speak freely about your religion because it offends me, what that does is it cramps our own freedom of speech as well, because I can turn the tables around on that person and say the very same thing. So I think it's also a lesson of tolerance here.
Well, and this is going on in one of the other ones, the cases that's it's a little broader than the street church thing, but this involves these Danish cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad that were published in Europe, and there's quite a big flurry about them. They were published in Canada by a now defunct magazine, the Western Standard magazine, by Ezra Levant. He's a guy I've known for some time and is not the least bit afraid of a fight or saying things outspoken. But in this case, he published the cartoons because they were at the centerpiece of a global story, and felt that it was important to understand what the fight was all about. And he was criticized and dragged before the Human Rights Commission on the basis of a complaint from someone in the Muslim community who said that his rights were being abridged.
Yes.
And this is the point that you're making, that it's a two-way street, cuts both ways.
Well, that's right, you see, because they're crossing the line of blasphemy. I mean, if we're going to be exchanging ideas of each other's religions, we must do so in a respectful manner. And when we do so in a way that shows your reverence for another's religion, that is disrespectful to another human being. And that's where they've crossed the line, and that's where they've entered into the limitations of free speech.
But, you know, the Christian church and Christian beliefs and Christ himself have been subjected to more ridicule, more blasphemy, more abuse than any cartoon of any prophet anywhere. And yet you don't see Christians bearing arms, taking arms, or going to the Human Rights Commission because of a movie or something like that.
Maybe we should do that, for I think we have, as Christians, we have just let it wash over us. We've been maybe not incensed enough, or our faith has not made us to rebel and say, this is enough, it is my Christ, and this is blasphemous to me as a Christian. And so maybe we should go to the Human Rights Commissions, although we believe they have taken on too much of a censorship role. But I mean, as long as they exist, and Christians always lose their cases in freedom of speech in front of Human Rights Commissions, but maybe we should take them on and say, I am offended. And hatred against my Christianity in the things that are being done and said, especially the arts community, against what I believe. And so it is the tolerance it's not a two-way street anymore. Tolerance has gone only one way. We have to be tolerant as Christians against everything else and everybody else, but as Christians, we are called intolerance, and we have no right to say anything anymore. Anything we say is a phobia.
Well, I think that this is a question of law, though. Blasphemy is actually not illegal in Canada or the United States, and that's why we're not seeing these cases coming forward. Blasphemy is illegal, however, in Denmark and in a lot of the countries of Europe, and that's why this was made a case. So we do have, that's why we're not seeing this so much.
Well, the human rights aspect of this, I think it's worthy of some discussion. I'll tell you what, let's just take a break here for the moment. We'll come back and discuss this a little bit more, because I'm interested about this whole human rights thing. And I also want to talk to you, Sharon, about freedom of speech in the classroom and advanced education, because I think that's an area that's also important to all of us, whether we're in the classroom or not. My guests are Sharon Ryan. She teaches management science at Concordia University, and Corey Marcos is with Real Women of Canada. We'll continue our discussion after these words. We're back on Top Story today, talking about freedom of speech and the Human Rights Commission. Our conversation with Sharon Ryan and Corey Marcos has gone down this road a little bit towards the Human Rights Commission. I want to ask you this. If the Human Rights Commission and the whole notion of human rights protection, I think generally speaking it's a good idea. There are complaints, though, that human rights activity has gone a little bit beyond protecting people from discrimination in their jobs or their places where they'd like to live on the basis of their religion or their skin color. It's sort of expanded into the whole area of the thought police, according to some critics. Are you concerned about that, either of you, that we're heading that way, or is that something that you think human rights commissions everywhere should expand and be a little more protective of?